Subson here. In this clip, I'm going to make a script that will cycle through a list of background image files. Get started. I'm going to open a terminal window. In a previous video, I created a file called wallpaper list. That file has a list of images, one image per line with the absolute path name. I'm going to create a new command in my bin folder called nbg for next background. The first thing I'm going to do in this command is create a variable called bglist. I'm going to set that variable equal to that wallpaper file. So a couple things about this. When you're shell scripting and you want to set a variable equal to something, there can be no space between the T and the equal sign here. Likewise, there can be no space between the equal sign and then the next character. Let me show you what happens if you mess that up. I have to make mbg executable. So what's happening is it thinks bglist is actually a command. It's searching for it and it's not found. So that's this space. This space, what that'll do is it'll think this wallpaper is actually a command and it'll search for that. That's not what we want. The little tilde symbol here will be replaced by whatever the user's home folder is. In my case, that will be home stubson. So we'll just test this. We're going to say paper list file. So when I create the variable, gotta remove this space, I don't use a $sign. If I want to display the value of that variable, I have to put a $sign in front of it. Let's see how this works. Sure enough. Replace the tilde with home/stubson, and then it print bglist is now equal to this. My wallpaper list, the way this is going to work, the very first line of this file is going to be the next wallpaper. It will take that line and set my background to that image, and then it's going to modify this file so that it moves this line all the way down to the very end of the file. Let's just see how that's done. So I need to figure out what the next wallpaper is going to be. I'm going to call that next background. I'm going to equal tail dash, head dash $1 bglist. Let's print that out. So the way this is going to work, there's a shell command called head. The head command, if you don't give it any options, if you just say head and then give it a file name, it will take the very first 10 lines of that file and display them. So it's showing you the head of a file, the start of a file. If you give it a dash and then a number, it will display only that many lines. So this command will display the very first line of this file. And remember, the very first line of this file is my next background, so that's what I'm going to do. And then I just want to display it here. Let's see if this is working. All right, so it shows me the wallpaper list, and it says the next wallpaper file is this. And sure enough, the very first line of my wallpaper list file is that. So that is correct. Let's actually make it set that. Previous video, I created a file that showed you how to change your background using the sway message command. We're going to do the exact same thing as that. We're going to say next background. We're going to make the mode be fill. Maybe a future change where I actually have the mode alongside the file in the wallpaper list. But right now, we're just going to assume that every wallpaper is going to be filled. Let me look through this. That looks good. Let's see if this works. And sure enough, it displayed the file. Now, what it's not doing is it's not advancing. It's not modifying the wall. So every time I execute this command, I'm going to get the same wallpaper. Let's see how I let's see how I modify that. So what I want to do is create a new background list. I'm going to say tail -in +2. I'm going to send that to a file called bglist.new. Let me explain what this is. Just like the head command, the tail command will display the last 10 lines of a file. In this case, I don't know how many lines are in the file. So I want it to start and show me everything but the first line. The way that works is you use -in, and then you give it plus, and then this number. This number is actually the number of lines plus 1. So you actually have to use 2 here. Seems a little screwy, but let's see if this works. I'm going to run the command again. Before I do that, ls, I have a file in my folder called wallpaper list. I'm going to display that file. Now I'm going to run the command. It took the very first line and said that's the next wallpaper. Now, it has also created a new file, wallpaperlist.new. Let's see what the contents of that is. It is exactly the same contents of the other file with one exception. The very first line, this line here, has been stripped off. It's missing. So that's what the tail command did. It just showed me, it displayed everything in this file except the first line. There's other ways of doing this. You could use a command called WC to count the number of lines, and then once you know the number of lines, you could say subtract 1 and then do a tail dash that. But tail kind of already has a feature to do that for you, and that's what I'm using here. But what I haven't done is I haven't taken this line yet and tacked it onto the end of the file. If I keep running this, eventually it's going to delete all the wallpapers and my wallpaper list is going to be empty. So let's go back and finish up this program here. What I'm going to do is say echo next background. I'm going to append that to the new BG list. Let's go see if that works. And now, when I look at my wallpaper file, and then when I look at my new wallpaper list, you can see that the original 2KZ9M6 has now been moved to the very bottom of the new file. And this is how it's going to cycle through these images. I'm not going to keep track of a number or some index into the file. I'm just going to always pull the very top line, and that's the next background. And then I'm going to modify the file. Now, we're almost done. I got to move this new file over on top of the old file. That's easy enough. Now, let's see how this works. All right. So before we had 2 files. But remember, I've now added a statement that removes this file. It actually moves it on top of that one. Let's see what my new wallpaper list is. There's the current wallpaper. Remember, it's the very last line of the file. The next wallpaper is going to be this one. Let me go ahead and execute the command again. Sure enough. And then let's look at that file again. You can see that this file here was on the top first line. Now it's the last line. And it's also, this is what the current wallpaper is. I can sit here and type MBG, cycle through every one of these files. Eventually I will get back around to the very first one. And it will just loop around. Next video, I'm going to create another command that will go previous. So it will do the exact opposite of this. It's pretty straightforward once you understand how this one works. Thanks for watching, y'all.